Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing human being, Miss Anita Carter. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with us, Anita. I've had the opportunity to see Anita in action in our networking groups, and I think she has a very important message, and I wanted her to come in and kind of share that information with you guys. So thank you for tuning in with us. And without further ado, Anita, welcome. Please let us know a little bit about yourself and how you got involved doing what you do.
Thank you, Dr. L, and thank you everyone for listening. I got involved because I was a teenage mom and a teenage wife, and I was illiterate until I was in my late 20s, and I realized as my kids got older, I didn't have that connection with them, especially when they needed that homework time. So it made me realize that I didn't have that bond with them and that connection. So I found myself yelling at my kids one day, and it was because of that embarrassment, that frustration, and shame. So I took myself to the community college and I tested myself. I had them test me, and I didn't realize how much I needed to get back on track on my education so I could be there for my children emotionally, educationally, and as a mom for them. So I went home and I cried with them, and then I let them know that it wasn't because I didn't want to be there for them. I couldn't be there for them for this reason. And they were so loving and so understanding, cried with me, and we did our homework together from that point on. And they were my ambitions. They made me realize that I was following to the same patterns as my dad. He only had a sixth grade level, and he wasn't there for us as well as he could have been present, but because probably he had the same issue I did, and he was too embarrassed to tell us as well.
Mm.
And so I became a therapist for over 24 years. I was a therapist slash behavior coach, and I helped a lot of families and children to communicate better, to in a healthier way, and have that connection. And I want to continue with that mission, even though I'm retired, by sharing the experience, my personal, my knowledge for, going back to school, getting all those degrees that I have. But that's my passion, is to let people know that don't let the shame and embarrassment of failing as a parent lose your connection with your children, because that's what I was doing. And it was a very hard, harsh lesson for me to learn. And I don't want parents to do the same.
Anita, thank you so much for your courage and your openness to actually discuss this, because many times, A, the awareness is not even there. And B, once people are aware of it, they try to hide it and brush it and hope it goes away. And of course, it doesn't. It's something that if you persist, it's going to actually end up persisting into the next generation, unfortunately. So I really appreciate you talking about this. Now, this also raises concerns in the sense that what you're seeing and what you're expressing is generational, meaning that this is not something that, okay, well, I struggled with it and then I grew out of it. So tell us a little bit more about some of the things that concerns you about this topic.
Yeah, because I feel like it's not just DNA. People think that it's a blood issue, but it's not. It's our environment. It's what we learn. It's the actions that we do. All that, it's combined in our parenting. And I realized that there was some parenting through my generation, my parents' generation, that I was taking on. And I didn't want to take that on to my children. There's a lot that I did, but there are some things that I tweaked because it was healthier. But my parents learned from their parents, and it's like a domestic violence cycle. You keep learning unless you become self-aware of exactly what's working and what's not working for you as a parent, instead of parenting from your parenting styles. And that's one of the things that I kept in my mind through the whole time I did my therapy, and I want to continue with my passion now is to let the parents recognize how the self-aware, what's working and what's not working in your parenting, not what you've learned in your environment or your
So
belief.
let's actually talk about that, about what's working and what's not working. So what are some of the common things that you see parents come to you frustrated and challenged with?
A lot of them are because of the lack of the communication and understanding and making that connection with their children. So they have that mindset of the being the authoritarian figure and it's their way or no way. And I grew up in that era where children were to be seen and not heard. That's not no longer that. Generations have changed, times has changed, and so I give them some skills and tools to help them to start that, open up that mindset so that they are more aware that communicating with their child meets their child's needs and their needs, and lessons that struggle of that power struggle that we always have with our children. Planning those family goals and values together with your child. Start early. It's never too early. And then you build that relationship that they'll come to you and tell you about everything. And that is one thing that I'm so glad that I learned when my kids were 9 and 11, when I realized that I needed to go and ask for help. It's okay for you to ask for that help. Don't feel ashamed, because that's what led me to have that one-on-one family meetings with my kids, that time with them, that they came to me later when they became teenagers and talked to me about when they first did or tried drugs or drank a beer with their friends or whatever. I want other families to have that connection with their children too, so that they don't have their children going out and hearing it from their peers or other people. Let them come to you to talk to you about those sensitivity situations, those ones that are very important for us as parents to be there for our children. So that's one of the main things, is parents want to have their children come to them, but they don't know how to get them to open up and talk to them. Have a conversation in the car with your child. Ask them a question. Don't just say, how's your day? Say, what did you do for lunch with your friends today? Open that conversation. They'll open up more. So did you make a friend today? Did you help somebody out today? Those little, I call them open starter conversations. Just being aware, self-aware of how your relationship you want with your child. How do you want to take it to? What level do you want to take it to? And educate yourself, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Google things if you need to. Let them know that you don't have an answer. Believe me, I did all the time. So
Actually, you brought up, this hallmark of an expert. You just brought up so many important points in your conversation. First of all, that whole approach about my way or the highway, more and more studies are showing that, that ultimately leads to a tug of war between the parent and the child. And they want to set their own identity. So naturally, they're going to try to do exactly the opposite of what you're trying to do, which means that it's not going to be achieving the objective that you have in mind, which is their betterment. So that's one part. The other part is that time and time again, it shows that when you ask a child to participate as a team member in deciding, in solving, in basically selecting the family path, they're eager to jump on the wagon and kind of participate and give their ideas. And what you were just describing about the kids coming to you and saying that, hey, I just had this experience, or what do you think about that? That is because they see you as a team member, as somebody that is safe, that they can come to, right?
Yeah.
But it starts with you, Shane, saying that, hey, I don't have the answers, or what do you think would be the best solution, or how would you handle this? Literally, I remember my kids, I used to have a conversation with them. If they did something, I'm like, what do you think should be the consequence for you breaking this rule? So they would decide on the consequence themselves. And oftentimes, actually, they were a lot harsher than I would have picked.
And you'd be surprised. They are. I found that with my therapy when I would tell the parents to let them decide I call them reminders instead of consequences.
Right.
Reminder, it's true. And you can even start with your younger child on timeout. Explain what timeout is, where they're going to be when they have that timeout. Let them have a visual of the clock to show, or, and put them in a timeout area where you also have that visual with them. But sitting down and talking to them about it is very important to start with any kid. It's very important for us to see what their feedback is. And a lot of times it is harsher than ours.
So let's talk about this, because some of our audience members, they're new parents and some of them are more experienced and they're almost empty nesters, right? So do you see a breakdown as far as how this communication needs to be approached depending on the age of the child?
So I always suggest that you look at not just the child's age, but the developmental stage, because sometimes they may be 5, but
Right.
their developmental stage might be 3 or 4. So start with reading books about specific feelings and behaviors, talk about it a little bit more, engage with them about if they've done some inappropriate behavior that you don't want. Bring the book out, explain. Do you feel like you're doing the same thing as Jack is doing in the book? So can we change it like Jack did at the end of the book? What are some things that you think I can help you with? And then as they get older, you just, sit down with them. I know as for some parents, it's a little bit harder when they're in that emotional moment. So I tell them, it's okay for you to set a time when you are going to come back, and you and your child will come back and talk about it when both of you are calm and the emotions aren't so high, so that you guys can collaborate together.
I like that. Actually, modeling that behavior, that not everything needs to be reacted to immediately, is very important for us as parents, as well as for our children, to understand that not everything needs to be dealt with right then and there.
No. And I had a timeout sheet that I had for my children, but I also had one for me. And when I needed it, I raised it too. And I said, Mama needs a timeout. Sorry. They knew that if I went in the bathroom and the door was closed, that they knew that Mom needed her time, and they would wait until I came out. So it's okay for me to show my children. It's okay for us parents to show that we too need, time.
Okay. So Anita, I know that this is a really multifaceted topic, and we've already shared tons of information. So for our audience members, if you missed any of it, you might want to go back and watch this again. But if there was one thing that you would say after watching this, people could start implementing, what would be that one important thing for them to do?
Start communicating at your child's level of age and stage development.
Right. So don't talk at them, talk to them at their level. Perfect. Beautifully said. All right, very cool. And how can people connect with you more and benefit from the materials that you have in your expertise?
So I do have a website. It's successfulparentingdna.com.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's do this. Guys, I'm going to put the information regarding Anita and how to connect with her and the resources that she has available, including, I believe, a gift. And that's very generous. I wasn't expecting that. So thank you, Anita, for offering that. But I'm going to put all of that in the description box. So 2 things. Number 1, please role model the behavior of connecting and letting the kids know that together we can thrive, that it is okay not to have all the answers, but through connections, we can have any answer. And model that behavior, reach out to Anita, become part of the community. and gain some insight and answers to some of the questions regarding this really otherwise complicated topic that we're not always trained to address. So definitely do that. Number two, if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and click subscribe on the channel so you get notification of all the experts and the topics that they bring to us, as well as the resources and the gifts that they generously give us. So do these two things. Anita, thank you so much for your busy time. Thank you so much for coming here. I know that you're busy. Any final words for our audience members before we finish?
Just that, you know, it is, we have to remember that our children have big eyes and big ears, and they watch us like a hawk, even though we think they're not. So it's
Well
good for
said.
us to be who we want to be them to be.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. So awesome. Thank you so much. And
Thank
with
you.
those wise words, until next time. Cheers.
Thank you.